Please introduce yourself, state your name and DOC number for the record.
Henry Aguilar, 601620.
All right, Henry, my name's, again, Brennan Kelsey. We have Mr. Jones and Mr. Marabella. We'll be hearing your case today. Explain the process to you. I'll read some information to the record. We'll have a parole interview, ask you some questions. You can respond. Anybody can make a statement opposed or support. We'll allow them to have that opportunity. Then we'll take a vote. Do you understand the process?
Yes.
Henry Aguilar, DOC number 601620, first class offender, forcible rape, sentencing date 7/31/2012, sentenced to 15 years, parole date 3/9/2015, not eligible for good time, and your full term is 3/10/2025. Does that sound correct?
Correct.
Okay, and
Yes,
we'll have Teresa make introductions as she needs to.
Yes, sir. We have Nick Trenicosta. He's the attorney for this case, and we also have Rainey Meyer, Jefferson ADA.
All right, thank y'all for being here at the appropriate time. You guys can make a comment. Would you answer Mr. Marabella's questions, please?
Mr. Aguilar, my name is Tony Marabella. How are you today?
How you doing, sir?
I'm
Good.
doing very well. You understand English pretty well?
No.
Okay. I'm going to ask you a few questions. I have read all of the documentation provided by your attorneys, but I do have a few questions that I'd like to ask you. I'd like to ask you to tell me a little bit about some of the programs and some of the classes that you have taken while you've been in prison and what they've meant to you.
Yes, sir. I take A&A or faith-based, kingdom living, parenting class, and celebrity recovery.
Prior to your coming to prison, did you do drugs or drink alcohol at all?
No, sir.
Any drugs, marijuana,
No,
ever
sir.
smoked marijuana?
No, sir.
It's my understanding that you've had no disciplinary write-ups whatsoever while you've been in prison. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And you've been in for 10 years?
For 10 years, I don't got no write-up.
And it's my understanding after reviewing the information that your attorneys have presented, it is likely that if we grant parole, you'll be deported back to Guatemala. Is that your
Yes.
understanding?
Yes, sir.
You have family in Guatemala? I mean, I've reviewed everything. You'll be living with your family there if that's the case?
Yes, sir. I got all my family, my grandma, my brothers, my sisters. They're waiting for me right now, sir.
And this is your first offense, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
That's all the questions I have.
Mr. Jones?
Good morning, Mr. Aguilar.
Come on, sir.
You were born in Guatemala
Yes, sir.
and grew up there, correct?
Yes. And I moved to the United States when I was 16 years old.
You came here when you were 16 to the US?
Yes, sir.
Why?
Because my mama died and I had to come in over here with my brothers. One of my brothers.
Okay. Where's that brother now?
Oh, here in Guatemala.
Okay. Do you have any family remaining in the United States?
No, sir. All my family in Guatemala.
All right. That's all the questions I have.
Mr. Aguilar, have you taken any sex offender classes?
No, sir, because the compounds where I've been, they don't got the program. And when they put me in the list, they take too long. And I've been getting shipped every 7 months, every 8 months on another compound.
So you haven't been in the compound?
I had no chance to take that program yet, but I had taken the ones I could.
Right, you've taken some classes. I just was wondering why you hadn't taken a sex offender class. You're saying you hadn't had the opportunity, or you just hadn't been in any?
No, I don't have opportunity. I arrived for, but the list is too long. By the time I'm supposed to go, they ship me to another camp.
Okay. All right, thank you. Okay, Mr. Myers, would you like to make a comment?
Yes, sir. Randy Myers, Assistant DA in Jefferson Parish. We're opposed. Mr. Aguilar, in looking at the record, it looks like he's here illegally. If he's released, and he's had no sex offender treatment. That was something that I noted, and a question I wanted y'all to ask him, because I noted that in the records that I've seen, he has had no sex offender treatment, and the submission by his counsel says nothing about any treatment that he's had. I think he clearly needs sex offender treatment. If he's released, you are putting juveniles at risk. If he's released and goes back to Guatemala, who's to say he's not going to come back here illegally again, and we'll be in the same situation without sex offender treatment and programming. I think he's a parole risk for wherever he ends up going. We're opposed. We think he needs to have that treatment before being released.
Thank you. I see Warden Hooper up there. I didn't know, Warden, good to see you. Would you like to make a comment on this case? Nope. Can't hear you. I guess there's a mute button somewhere over there. That's all right. Does any of the wardens like to make a comment on the case? Somebody else was on, I think.
No, sir, this is Warden Butcher, so I don't have any comments.
Okay, thank you.
Can you hear me now?
I can now.
All right. He just came to reception in March, so he's actually in quarantine and all that stuff, so he's not getting any programs. He has no write-ups, so that's why he hadn't received his treatment on sex offenses.
All right, thank you. All right, counsel, would you like to make a statement for Mr. Aguilar?
Yes, thank you. I'm Nick Trenicosta. My law partner is Susan Herrero. Mr. Herrero has spent some time talking with his family in Guatemala. I want to point out something that is in our submission. She contacted the mayor of the town where he is from, and as you see in our brief, the mayor has checked the criminal records in San Marcos, the hometown, and Mr. Aguilar has no arrests or any kind of fire. Like many Latin American youth, he came here to make some money so he could send the money home to his family. Mr. Myers, I believe, is quite wrong to suggest that he may come back. Mr. Aguilar has an extensive family in Guatemala who is ready and willing to take care of him.
So I reached out to the mayor of San Marcos to verify that he had no criminal history. I reached out to the bank to verify that he had a place to work and a church community that would be ready and willing to receive him. And I also checked with ICE and the Guatemalan consulate to make sure that people were continuing during this pandemic, and they are. So he would be reported.
All right, thank you. Hey, Mr. Aguilar, would you like to make a comment on your behalf?
No, I just wanna let everybody know that I know sometimes we do something wrong, and I believe I did something wrong, and I repent, and I really don't want anything I have done that happened to my family. I really feel sorry for myself to do something and be where I'm at right now, but I believe God have another chance to everybody, and I really feel bad what I did. That's all I can say.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask a question of Mr. Trinacosta before we vote?
Sure.
Mr. Trinacosta, have you talked to ICE? Have y'all been in contact with ICE at all about this?
Yes, we have. Susanna can explain.
To verify that, that the deportations are continuing during the pandemic, yes.
So as a practical matter, they meet him at the gate?
So in our brief, I've outlined the procedure. They'll come to Hunt, they'll serve him a notice, they'll come back with a final order for deportation, they'll move him over to LaSalle, where he will wait until there's room on flights going to Guatemala City. When there's room, they'll move him over to the holding facility, the ICE holding facility at Alexandria at the airport for about 24 hours. And the following day, he'll get on a flight to Guatemala City. It's a nonstop ICE flight that lands at the military base at Guatemala City Airport. And from there, Guatemala will then receive him. So I'm anticipating about a month for that process.
All right. So he is released from Hunt. He is met at the gate by ICE, and he's not released until he's in their custody. Is that right?
Well,
Yeah, that's how it works.
Okay.
Can you
Thank
hear
you.
me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, we won't release. ICE has to pick up, and then ICE will take him to a site that will hold him. So he will not be in the community anywhere.
All right.
He will stay
All right.
under lock and key until he gets on the plane back to Guatemala. Yeah, we
Thank
won't
you.
release to anybody but ICE.
Good. Thank you.
He has a federal detainer on him.
All right. That's all I have. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Is the panel prepared to vote?
Yes.
Mr. Marabella?
After reviewing his record and noticing that he has a low risk assessment, that he has an outstanding disciplinary record while he's been in prison, the classes that he's conducted, I do acknowledge the district attorney's opposition and the basis for the district attorney's opposition. And I also note that the victim in this case has no opposition to his being released on parole, and the fact that he is going to be deported to Guatemala, where his entire family is, and he'll have a support system there. I'm going to vote to grant his parole.
Mr. Jones?
I certainly agree with Mr. Meyer that he should have had. It would have been much preferable if he had had sex offender treatment, and it was he didn't have it. He has a perfectly good explanation of why he doesn't have it, and it wasn't ever by his choice that he didn't have it. And if this were an ordinary parole, I suspect I would vote to deny his parole until such time as he was able to get sex offender treatment. However, this isn't an ordinary parole. This is a parole whereby he never released to the community in the United States. He stays in the custody of ICE until they take him to Guatemala, where his family is. I therefore agree with Mr. Marabella. My vote is to grant the parole.
Right, you have 2 votes to grant your parole. Again, I am pretty disappointed in the fact that you hadn't taken the sex offender class. I get it. We're all trying to do the best we can. That's disappointing over the course of 8 years. But in this circumstance, I'm going to also vote to grant you to the federal detainer only, ICE only, to have you picked up and released. If we don't expect you back, so stay in Guatemala, enjoy your family. You have 3 votes to grant your parole to the federal detainer, ICE only. Parole's been granted. Thank you. And I think we will sign out 9:09 a.m. Still Wednesday. Y'all have a great day. Good seeing you guys.
Well, what they forgot to ask in those questions was how many nephews and nieces, maybe even grandchildren that he has there. But that's not the point, as we know. The point in this case really was, I guess, how can we get him off of our books? We have seen New Orleans, regardless of whether it's sending it to a different country or even a different state, there is a big eagerness. If you have another state that will take you. Texas is a big one. They're in a rush to have them out of New Orleans, and it is something we've noticed. They don't have a lot of issues on this crime. They don't really, this really did feel more like a procedural thing, less about protecting children, like what Randy had brought up. Like, hey, but what's going to happen when he gets out? What's going to happen if he comes back in? Now, the only difference that I will go about is I don't think programs make a difference for cockroaches. I just don't feel that way. So really, I think it's neither here nor there. It's just absolutely amazing how they all check these boxes of not having any write-ups. You have an exception here and there, but 99%, it's just absolutely, it never ceases to blow my mind. But the details on this crime, so he was arrested in 2010. The date of this hearing is 2020, so it was 10 years later. He was 24 years old at the time of his arrest, and she was 12. So a 24-year-old and a 12-year-old. And when she was initially caught, what I'm sharing you here is his appeal for the sentence. There is an article, but it has a paywall, so I'm not going to show it. But I can link it if you want to go and pay for the paywall. That's, support a local paper. I think it's like $1 a month or something. But he actually told them when he was initially arrested that he was in love with her. Which is a classic grooming thing we've seen plenty of times on those Chris Hansen things. The suspect indicated that both he and the victim were in love with each other. That's what he told the sheriff's office in an affidavit. And he was only caught because she had told her boyfriend when she told another young girl about her boyfriend. So she did think that he was her boyfriend. Remember, she's 12, he's 24. But he was about to go to court. They were actually about to pick the jury a few hours away from doing that. And then he took the plea deal for 15 years on both counts instead of facing up to life imprisonment. And he served 10. And now he's going to get a chance of parole. We have not seen him again. Frankly, I think they're just kicking the ball down the road to another person's backyard. And I don't know what the right answer is here. I don't know how you handle something like this. Just check out those classic Louisiana taxidermy stuff right there. We've seen now Tim Hooper's office a few times. Nice to see him here. But maybe he's retired. We haven't seen him in really future hearings. And Randy Meyer, the assistant DA, actually showing up. That's what he does. He shows up to all the hearings in his parish. And I thought he made some good points. But with that, I'll let you go.